you were given so many coupons and these ration tokens. This says meat on it, and you would spend these like you spend money during World War II. So your grandparents would have done this, and you would have had this ration booklet, and you would have, tore off X number of coupons for gasoline or for different things. There were different colors. Each color meant something different.
Mm-hmm. I remember them. Do you, Mickey?
No, I don't know.
But vaguely I remember them.
Yeah, these were, you're only allowed to have so many eggs, so much butter, so much meat in the course of a week or a month.
Mm-hmm.
And when we had gotten away from rationing even before the war ended for us, so the war in Europe ended in May of 1945. We had cranked everything up so much that we were able to start giving people more meat and more butter. But the British, who were on the winning side, right? They had rationing. The war ended in 1945. They had rationing until 1952. They were still using this stuff.
Why, Mickey?
They were devastated. They were bankrupt.
Oh, right. The damage done. Yeah.
Yeah. If you owned a home, in Britain, and it got bombed during the Blitz, or Germany, just think of it. From what I know of insurance policies, the acts of war were not covered.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have a huge mortgage on your house, and then boom, it's gone. And if you survived it, but and I still don't know, did they still have to pay that mortgage? Probably they did. You can imagine the psychological suffering. It was one thing to survive the war, physically, but to be ruined financially, to be mentally destroyed.
Yeah.
It goes on and on and on. And over here, you look at our pictures, and there's some here. If you look inside, there's pictures here in Toronto of our troops kissing, all the girls, everybody celebrating at the end of the war. See right here, back here? And they did the same thing in Britain, but the day after they celebrated, they still had nothing, and we had so much.
We weren't bombed.
No, this is a mother's medal given out by the Nazis. They wanted their women to have as many babies as possible, and this is Hitler's signature here embossed. That's his signature, and this was September the 16th or December the 16th, 1938. So I don't know what the blue medal, like this might have been for having 5 children, maybe the 5th one or something, but they were really into having one of the mothers in that.
Building their army.
And
Do you want to get a close-up?
And you got medals for this.
I want to get out of the way here. I don't want to get
And this is Hitler's signature on the back.
You're right, she'll come after and do a lot of shooting.
Okay. This is also a Nazi passport. You want to have a look at that? That's Katharina Blut, I think her name is. And you can see that she traveled to Austria and places like that in the
This is so cool.
in the late 30s. You wonder whatever happened to that person,
Look at that. Can I close
And this is the highest medal for valor that you can receive in the British, Canadian, Australian, Commonwealth. And a just simple medal like that says for valor. This is the American Silver Star. This, if you know anything about the American Civil War, the Grand Army of the Republic, that was the Northern Army. And this is the medal that each one of these soldiers was given for having served. This is a real medal. So 1861 to 1865. Okay, you see that close up? And there's a whole series of different medals in here. This is an example of trench art. This would have been used, this would have been made by a soldier. In this case, I would say a British soldier. It has a Union Jack on it, or it could be Canadian. But they would take bullets like this, and they would take all these shell casings, and they were bored, they were sitting in the trenches, and they would make stuff like this. Christmas dinner, 1945. So the war ended in Europe in May, and a lot of the soldiers were still over there, okay? And so this was Christmas Day, 1945, and you can see here, this is a message here from the Lieutenant General, Chief of Staff, Canadian Forces. It says, Christmas message from Chief of Staff to all ranks of the Canadian Army in the United Kingdom. Some of you have spent many Christmases away from home, but whether it be many or your first, the Christmas of 1945 should be a happy one for all. Happy in that we have no longer a war on our hands. Happy that we all should soon be on our way home, and particularly happy that we are fortunate enough to be able to look forward to Christmases to come. My best wishes to all of you for a very happy Christmas.
That's nice.
And there's we talked about the British people were starving about this time, and our troops were having fruit juice cocktail, cream of vegetables, roast turkey, sage, onion dressing, cranberry sauce, potatoes, green peas, Christmas pudding, hard sauce, minced tart, fruit cake, coffee, fruit, and nuts. That's one thing my dad always says, that the Canadians were very, very well fed and well cared for. And we were paid more than the British. Again, the average British, I think we made almost twice as much as a British soldier. The American soldier earned more than a Canadian, but a Canadian earned a lot more than the British. This is 25 cents in the 1923 here in Canada. That's a quarter. Okay? Now, it gives you some idea how inflation has changed things. 25 cents in those days was more than an hour's labor. That's what you would have if you had a good job. So it had a lot of value, to it. And it got worn out. And then you don't remember this money here, but Dan and I do very much in the 60s and 50s. And we don't make $2 bills anymore. We have the coin, of course. But
I don't remember it looking that old, but I do remember the $2.
well, this would have been when war came, 1937. This is what our dollar looked like. And this is what our dollar looked like just prior to that. This was 1935. And this is what it looked like in the 1920s. 1922. Look how big the dollar was in 1922. And if you look at old movies, you look at when somebody opens a wallet back in the Prohibition time, you'll see that money was American money, a pound note, Canadian money was very large. I don't know why it was, but it was. Maybe just to signify that it had value or something, I don't know. But these are models. This is a B-17 Flying Fortress. These planes would hold about 2,000 pounds of bombs because they were so heavily armored, with machine guns and what have you. It's interesting because if you look at the Lancaster bomber, which is this down here, now this was been converted after the war to be a coastal patrol plane. These could carry 20,000 pounds of bombs versus 2,000 to 2,500. That was British. And this is a B-24 Liberator. They made these in Michigan, in Ypsilanti, Michigan. It's the largest plant in the world, 1.5 miles under one roof. And the story on these, there was a little over 1 million parts that went into these airplanes. And Ford Motor Company built these. And it took them a couple of years to get it right. But by 1944, they were building one of these every 59 minutes. It gives you some idea of the arsenal of democracy that we had, that the Americans and Canadians and British had. In history, there's never been a time like it. They produced so much with so little, so quickly. It was unbelievable. Talked about women not having children and what have you. And in those days, women didn't work. And of course, they couldn't vote. So they would have, if you went to visit somebody who was middle class and up, the women, they kind of stayed infantile longer. They played at being little girls. They were well protected. And so you would have to fill out a page in their book. These are all dated 1904, 1907, and it's interesting. You get the colloquialism of the day, and there's some World War I soldiers who visited as well, and they'd have to write something or draw something.
These were left in people's houses then, or?
Yeah, if I came to visit you, let's say,
yeah.
and you were like 18 years old or something like that. First of all, you'd probably spend the weekend or something because you were in the country and I lived in the city and I was your cousin or something. And she would say to you, okay, here, take this, and you have to write something, or you can't come in, or we're not going to feed you tonight or something, And so it's quite interesting to see the humor of the day and the artistry that existed, There's all kinds of watercolors here. And they're all dated, January 1905.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's quite interesting when you have the time to go through this.